now. Okay, we are officially recording. I'm so excited. So yeah, basically, like Kacia said, so we kind of like last minute decided to put this together. But what we thought would be a really cool opportunity is to kind of take all of the questions that we hear from you guys, whether you specifically commented in the thread that we posted today, just common things that we hear on new coach calls for new coaches, tenured coaches, and different leadership groups, builders groups, and kind of just collected all of the feedback and just common questions and things that come up. And we're going to put it together in a Q&A form. And I think I have like 11 or 12 questions, and we'll see what we can get through. But we thought it'd be kind of fun to do a Q&A with Kacia, and she doesn't know what's coming, and we'll just kind of keep her on her toes and see what she has to say. So with that, if during this whole conversation, if you guys do have any follow-up questions or anything else you want to add, just drop it in the chat. I will be paying attention, and if we have time for it at the end, we will get there. And if we're left with a ton of questions at the end, we'll just do another round of this. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So Kacia, so one of the first things we often hear, and I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to this, especially if you're a new coach, but there's a lot of firsts in this business, things that we have to do for the very first time, whether it's our first invite, our first post on social media, our first challenge group, all the way through to as you develop as a leader, doing your first new coach call, doing your first onboarding process, all of those different things. And what comes with that sometimes is a little bit of fear and a little bit of uncertainty. So Kacia, the question for you that we have today is, how do you manage the fear of doing something for the first time, and how do you take action, and what's kind of your advice on just getting started?
Ooh, such a good question, because I think you have to get comfortable with the fact that fear doesn't go away. I know for me, when I cried the very first time that I posted on Facebook, before I posted, I was really, really concerned what other people thought of me, right? I was very concerned of like, were they gonna think that I was qualified enough to be a health and fitness person? Like, I didn't have a six-pack abs. I had this great career on paper. Were people gonna get it? Were they gonna talk about me behind my back? Was I gonna be quote unquote that girl? And I know that's a fear that a lot of new coaches have. And for me, I thought that once I did it, that I would get over the fear, but the fear just changes, right? Because then the fear is, with a team this large, right? Am I leading the team the best way that I can? Am I mentoring coaches the best way that I can? And am I setting people up for this success the way that I can? So to answer the first stage of fear is, you kind of just get comfortable dancing this line of being scared but doing it anyway, because you understand that fear is actually part of growth. It's a necessary thing that you can't skip to grow and evolve as a human being, period, in this business or outside of it. And we know that fundamentally, but I think sometimes we associate this business with something else, like it's going to be easy. It's simple, but it's not going to be easy because you're your own worst critic, right? Like, you're constantly battling this negative, like mean girl, crazy talk in your head at every single stage in your business. So it's kind of managing that. For me, what's really worked is getting really intentional about why I'm doing the thing that I'm doing. So if you're a brand new coach and you're starting this, remember, you're excited right now for a reason. You signed up because you have had results in a challenge group, or you're finally excited about something in your life, or you see how this has helped you, or you're finally connecting with women that get it, that get you, that are on the same path as you. So constantly connecting with the fact that fear is necessary. You can't skip it. I can't give you a pill to bypass it. If I could, I wouldn't, because then you're going to build confidence to get where you need to go, right? So I think, number one, accept. It's never going away. You're just going to have to dance with it, but you're going to be a better person in the process. And number two, attach it to a why, because when you're having a purpose of why you're doing something, sorry, this is another tangent. Sorry, Jackie, but one thing I was just thinking about, if you have a purpose, even that's outside of the business. So for me, a lot of people do not know this, but when I first started coaching, another reason that I wanted to start coaching was because I wanted something that I could be really me with, right? So a lot of people that have corporate jobs that are really like buttoned up jobs like I did, I was a project manager of IT people. If you guys know me even a little bit, I'm like, wow, let's go. And like, you can't be like that if you want to be taken seriously in that type of a role. But this thing, I was like, this is going to be the thing that I'm going to be so dang me in. And it's hindsight, right? Like, looking back, I understand that I did that, but I see that some coaches are missing that part, where they know why they're doing this and they want to take purpose-driven action to build a business, but they're forgetting, how is this serving you as an independent person? by showing up. Well, for me, this was the way that I could get better at being me, which that in itself is a huge gift and worth it, right? So maybe digging into why it is that you're here, and that will help you kind of dance in the fear. That was a really long answer. Sorry.
Oh, I love it though. So, I mean, so many like head nods are just going crazy. And I think like, honestly too, just hearing you say all of that, it's like, I love the idea of just taking all of it, understanding it, and then realizing I'm either eventually going to send the invite or I'm not. I'm either eventually going to post on social media or I'm not. So just like knock it out of the way and get it over with. So love that answer. That's so good. Okay, the next question that comes up often, and I feel like this is a little bit more of like kind of strategic question, but I think you're such a great person to answer it, is just in general, people have a lot of questions around social media. And I think it'd be cool to kind of hear you talk about social media, but more so kind of how do you talk to the girl that you're most excited to help, or how do you not sound like a Beachbody robot, or even kind of crafting that business story versus a fitness story, and kind of just like even incorporating Instagram stories, kind of what's your tips and tricks and strategies when it comes to social media?
Ooh, I like this one. Ow, I just hit my leg. So the thing that Danielle talked about on the team call a couple weeks ago is really similar to what we've been training on our team since early on, that I think is really beneficial, which is actually sitting down, whether you're a new coach or you're a tenured coach. Because remember, as a tenured coach, you evolve as a person, right? So like the person that you were 6 months ago and why you're starting, like I can see Christy Payne. Christy wasn't pregnant 8 months ago, but now that's a huge part. Wait, okay, for a second I was like, does everyone know she's pregnant? Everyone knows you're pregnant. But you know, that wasn't part of her story in terms of what she would share about because she wasn't pregnant before. But if you were to name 5 things that matter to you right now, you best believe that one of Christy's 5 things is her healthy pregnancy journey. And she's going to be sharing that on social media. And she wants to connect with moms that are thinking they can't work out while they're pregnant and show them that they can and inspire them to take action and talk about what it's going to be like as a mom. So sitting down at this stage right now in your business and intentionally blocking off 1 through 5, and I mean, do more if you want, but I just think it's really good to have at least 5 areas of your life that matter to you and actually getting intentional about what those things are. So for Christy, healthy pregnancy, right? Maybe being a military wife, maybe living in an area where she's constantly moving. So she's trying to make friends in different areas. She's big on personal growth. She's also, you know, a student, like things that are important to you that's going to build connective tissue with your audience. And I think where new coaches misstep or where tenured coaches misstep, I want to talk about both. New coaches sometimes misstep from my lens when they just start posting and they only post about Beachbody. And they forget that that's really not what's necessarily going to connect you with someone else, right? What's going to connect is the different little pieces of your life that you like The Bachelor. Guess what? Other people that like The Bachelor also need health and fitness. Oh, you're a student? Well, other people that are students or in a transition stage in life also want support and community and want convenience, right? So it's finding what those 5 different areas are and talking to that person that's in that stage. So I think that's one part as a new coach and even as a tenured coach to get intentional and break that down again. For me, I mean, I didn't have a podcast 6 months ago, so I wasn't talking about the podcast. So obviously that now became one of the 5 things that I'm really passionate about talking about. So that's one part. Then to the tenured coaches or to the coaches that have seen success in this business or have been here for a while, we have to make sure that we're constantly using outsider jargon to explain insider conversations. So the example I always use is like, if you're to talk about yellow containers, people that aren't involved with Beachbody don't know, give me all the yellows. They like don't think that's funny if you're just like, give me all the carbs, right? They don't understand that language. When you say Beachbody on demand, that doesn't make sense to a stranger, but a Netflix of fitness on a digital platform does. When you say 21-day fix, yes, Beachbody spends millions of dollars a year on advertising to make Beachbody products and programs household names, but in your posts, educating still. As a new coach, but especially as the tenured coaches who have been here for a while that think that everyone knows what you're doing, they don't, right? I just had someone message me today and ask me how I earn income. And I was like, oh, I got this virtual boot camp. Like, well, join, right? But the point is we have to make sure that we're telling that story and we're telling them regularly. And then part of your question, Jackie, you mentioned a business story and a fitness story. And this is something I talked about at Summit like 3 years ago or 2 years ago, which was how important I think it is to have a business story, to have a fitness story, and then to have a product story. So for example, my business story is I started as a discount coach, accidentally started to build a business because I wanted more fulfillment in my life. Then revved up the engine when I saw the potential and turned into a full-time coach 14 months after I started. So I'm actually telling my early on business story so much more than I'm telling my business story now, because I've been a full-time coach for 4 years. My target audience is in a corporate job right now, right? They don't understand what I'm doing. They're like, does she take selfies with her dog? Like, what does she do? So regardless of what stage you're in this business, remember your business story is important. Cassie Bittinger does such a good job of sharing how she builds this business while she's at work. In the cracks, you'll see her like talking in the parking lot on Instagram stories of like, I'm checking on my challenge group, and she's got like her laptop and she's like in the Costco line. So she shows and educates her business story of why this is important to her to do that. So if you're not doing that, you're missing a huge opportunity to connect with people. The fitness story, that changes. April had a baby 6 months ago. You guys saw her crazy transformation. I just want to like pound you through the computer because you're freaking awesome. But think about that. Her fitness story is different than when she started. Now she had a postpartum journey, and she's going to connect with so many moms that are on their postpartum journey, right? So your fitness story might change. So it's kind of just identifying what is it that you want to help serve people with most? Who are you most excited to help? I'm not most excited to help the person who's an entrepreneur now. I'm most excited to help the girl that's in her cubicle and she's like, I have a great job. What's wrong with me? Like, I have this gut feeling that I want more. That's who I want to serve. So I'm going to talk to that business story that she's going to connect to. And I'm going to talk to the fitness story of the girl who goes to happy hour too much and drinks too much wine and doesn't want to count macros, but she just wants balance and convenience, right? So knowing those two stories is super powerful. Tanya talked a ton about Shakeology. Obviously, I'm not going to go into that. But when I talk about Shakeology, I don't break down nitty gritty stuff. I lead with convenience because that's what my target market cares about. That's what drew me in. Convenience, taste, hair, skin, nails. That's what my target market cares about, right? More and taste for sure. So kind of figuring out those business story, fitness story, product story, okay? And intertwining those in, and then your 5 different areas. And if you're right now thinking, remember, start small. If you've never posted on Instagram, set a goal for yourself to do 3 posts this week, and let's build from there. My goal as a full-time coach is to post on my feed 5 or 6 times a week and Instagram stories every day, right? So whatever it is that feels good for you, but push yourself a tiny bit. Looking at Lauren Minkler, for example, I'm like, Lauren, you don't have to go to posting every single day in a week, but let's push yourself to go for 3. And once you get consistent with that, let's go for 4 and start to make this a real business plan of how you're showing up on social media. Okay, and then last point on that real quick is I think that we have a missed opportunity if we don't lead with the point in our post. A lot of times when I post, I'll put like something that I think is juicy on the top that will drag someone into the story. I'm not the girl to ask about hashtags and all that junk. Like, I don't even know. But I do like to read posts that are separated out a little bit and that lead with kind of like a punchline and end with a question so that someone might be able to comment, but they feel like you're talking to them in the post. So yeah, that's kind of my rundown on that.
Oh, so good. And I was loving too, you're just like pulling in all these other people's stories because it just like helps like shape the whole picture. So I love that. Great answer. And then now the next question, I didn't even actually intentionally do this, but we're going from like mindset to strategy to mindset to strategy. So we're going to go back to a mindset one, which I love. This is kind of an interesting question, but I think it kind of hits home for newer coaches as well as tenured coaches. And I'm going to kind of ask it in both ways. So for the newer coach, how do you're excited, you're confident about what you have, you know what's working for you. So you start to put it out there, but your friends aren't immediately jumping on board. They're doing other workout classes. They're joining other meal plans and stuff like that. So the question for there being like, how do you stay confident and excited when that initial first impression isn't all of your friends want in? And then also as you kind of grow in this business, you're feeling more confident as a leader, you're building your team and all of that, but then all of a sudden your coaches are quitting on you, your team isn't rank advancing. How do you maintain confidence as a leader when you're not feeling like your team is showing up in the way you want them to?
Oh, so good. Okay. So to answer the first part, I think kind of going into this with the understanding of 2 parts. One, not everyone's going to get it because remember, they're not seeing what you're seeing. So I do think we have to take radical personal responsibility for how much we're educating the people that are close to us on why this matters. And I've talked about this a lot with significant others where like, my biggest pet peeve, and don't take this personally if you said this to me, because I probably told you right after you asked me, like, oh, my boyfriend's not supportive, my husband's not supportive. And my response back is always, what was the conversation like when you talked to him about this or her about this? What was that conversation like? And when you tell me that you haven't had that conversation, I don't blame him for not getting it. I blame you for not educating him on why this is important to you. Same thing goes with your friendships, right? There are people that were super supportive of me straight out the gates in this business, but it was because they saw me crying because I was so freaking excited. They saw me being like, I'm going to change people's lives. I can't believe they didn't get it. Maybe they didn't join, but they didn't naysay about it because they understood why it mattered to me. So I think we have to take radical responsibility for educating the people that are close to us. That being said, I'm a huge believer in you can care what people think. You can have your feelings hurt. I am not an F the haters, screw the naysayers, Gary Vaynerchuk, like, whatever, be your own lane, drive your face off. I'm not that person. That's just not my personality type. I've tried to be that in seasons, and it just doesn't feel good to me. So what I do is I care what I think most. I constantly focus on building my own confidence muscle, and I only take advice from people whose lives I respect and the topic that they're giving me advice on. So if someone wants to tell me about business or chasing my dreams that's never chased their dreams and they hate their job and they're counting down days till Friday every single week, I don't care what they think about what I'm doing. Not because I don't care what they think because it doesn't hurt my feelings if they don't support me, but because I'm only willing to take to heart advice over someone whose opinion that I value, who's living a life that's in line with what I would want for myself. Not just because I want to be building my own path, but also because I know that if I live a life that's not in accordance to what I want for myself and making my impact here, I'm also going to build up resentment towards that person unintentionally, that I'm not pursuing my goals and my vision. Maybe it's with Beachbody for you, like as a coach, right? You have this big dream. You've got this goal that you want to impact all these moms or all these corporate hustlers or whatever it is your dream is, and you decide to dim down your light because you're worried about what Sally Sue down the street thinks of you. Well, that's on you, boo. That's on you. You get to choose what that looks like for you. So honor that and understand some people aren't going to get it, and that's okay. What does help is if you treat this like a business, you educate people on why it matters to you, and you show up consistently, that builds credibility early on. What helped with me a ton, and Jackie, you can even attest to this, Jackie and I lived together when I started coaching. Jackie was a discount coach at the time, supportive of me, but I really started building this business a couple months before her. And what I did is I would be like, yep, I'm going to happy hour, but I have to be back at this time. And I would go down into my room by myself and work on my business for an hour while Jackie and our other roommate would be upstairs with like friends in our house. So they didn't get what I was doing, but they saw that I was taking it seriously, and it built confidence and credibility internally for me, which helped me show up, right? And helped me have my blinders on to all the noise. And it helped people understand, I don't get what Kacia's doing with this like Beachbody thing, but she's showing up for it. So like, I'm either going to get on board or not. And consistency over time did make that easier. And people that don't get it from a financial perspective or significant others or like parents or whatever that may be, I will tell you, when you show up consistently and you bust your butt and all of a sudden you're making income, that helps for those analytical people that may say it's easier that way. So that's one part. The second part for when coaches quit, I personally believe that everybody has a different journey within Beachbody. I always think of a particular woman on our team who had a late stage miscarriage that was heartbreaking for her. She was a diamond rank coach of mine, high success club earner. I would have thought in a million years that she would have been here for years and years and years. But because of her building her business to diamond and beyond and hitting success club consistently, to grow your business to that rate, you have to grow yourself as a person. So she was so immersed in personal development. She was so immersed in this team community that when she had that horrible miscarriage late on in her pregnancy, she had the tools in her toolbox that she would not have had she not been a coach and pushed for diamond and beyond to manage through that. It would have, potentially ruined her marriage and had her go to what some of her other family members had done during hard times, like the bottle, right? So everyone has a different journey. And so if you can kind of go into this with the lens that not everyone's going to have the same vision of you, your job is to ask them to join you. Your job is not to build their business for them. You can't carry people up a mountain. I will tell you, hands down, the hardest thing for me in this business that I've cried many times over is that I see so much damn potential in so many people, and sometimes they quit before they see it in themselves. And that is tough. But the only way that I've been able to manage it is I understand that this comes into people's life for a different amount of time, a different season, for a different reason, and they're going to learn what they can learn from leaning into this community. Not everyone's going to be here in 10 years. I'll be here in 100, so we're going to bank on science for that one because I'm 29. But not everyone's going to have the same journey. So the quicker that you accept that it's not your responsibility to train, mentor, develop someone to the point of what you think their potential is, but instead you're to be a reflection of what's possible, be a lighthouse, right? You guys have heard this analogy before, be a lighthouse where they know what's possible and you can give them the resources, but it's their job to be resourceful, which is why you don't see me spoon feed coaches. You don't see me like feel responsible if someone quits. And that took a long time. That took a lot of coaches quitting. That took a coach quitting during 15-star qualification, which is the highest rank in the company. That took a lot of really hard things to build up that muscle to know that you showing up and building your business and serving people with this opportunity and they get to choose what to do with it, that's your actual job. And that's it.
Woo! Man, so many people in the chat were just like, fire, yes, I can. Like, this is awesome.
I forgot what the question was, so hopefully
that was epic. Great answer all around. People are absolutely loving this. Just the feedback is really good. Okay, we're gonna move back to kind of a strategic question. So the original question was, this particular coach was saying that she's struggling at the beginning when she's having a conversation with people, getting people to sign up as essentially a discount coach, because she's telling them, you know, if you sign up as a coach, you get a 25% discount on Shakeology, and their response is kind of like, well, I don't know if I'm going to keep drinking Shakeology, so it wouldn't be worth it. So two-part question there. One, how do you approach the conversation towards having someone sign up as a coach right at the beginning? And then two, how do you get them excited about Shakeology and the idea of it long-term?
Totally. So when I invite someone I'm just going to go real quick through this actually. So when I invite someone, I send a blanket type of invite. So for example, just all right, girl, can you, oh, there we go. So
hold on, that one person, she keeps, hey Andy, I don't know if you can hear me, but if you can keep yourself muted, that would be perfect. Then Kacia, you're good. Okay,
cool. Okay, so I'm gonna go real quick through my process. And basically what I do when I'm inviting someone is I'm sending a blanket invite. So it's like, hey girl, to someone on Instagram, for example, hey girl, you seem like someone that I'd be friends with. I have no idea if this would be up your alley, but I run these virtual boot camps with a bunch of busy women from all across the country. I always say busy because that's the biggest objection that I get is I'm too busy for this or I don't have time. So I always include that in. I run a virtual boot camp with a bunch of busy women from all across the country. We check into a private app and stream our workouts on a digital platform that's kind of like a Netflix for fitness. Again, I have no idea if this would be up your alley, but I feel like you'd vibe with the community. Does that sound like something you'd be into? Okay, so blanket invite. I don't talk about Shakeology. I don't talk about Beachbody. I don't say a lot of details. I say why I think they might be interested, but it's very broad. They're going to respond back with 3 different directions. One, they're going to say, yes, actually, I might be interested, or, oh, I've seen you post about that, or tell me more, okay, something like that. Or they're going to respond with how much does it cost straight out the gates, or they're not going to respond. I think it's crucial to have all 3 buckets to have a healthy, thriving business. You need the creepers. I was a creeper. Creepers gonna creep. They need to creep for a while. Cassie was a creeper. I'm looking at like people that I can see. People were creepers, okay? So you need those. The people that say, tell me more, or say, how much does it cost? I'm going to say back to them, girl, I'm so excited that you're interested. I totally think you're gonna vibe with this community. I'm gonna validate the same reason I invited them because they've expressed interest, even if they say, how much does it cost? And then I'm gonna say from there, first, because I don't want to give you so much information and word vomit because I'm so excited, can you tell me a little bit more about your current health and fitness goals? What's working for you and what's not working as well as you would like? The biggest thing that I see that coaches run into is they explain it, before they ask a question, or they only ask what's working for you and they forget the what's not working as well as you would like. That part's really important because we don't want to be like slimy salespeople. We want to be solution providers. We want to be coaches. We want to help serve people in a massive way. So we have to know their pain points so that we can solve it with how we describe the group. The reason why I'm giving you guys this backstory, because it's kind of like a cake. I can't just answer how do you get to coach. I got to tell you kind of the beef before, right? A beefcake, I guess. Sorry for the vegans. Okay. Anyway, so anyway, after they tell me what's not working, then I'm going to explain the group in a way that it can solve their problem, whether it's convenience or nutrition or accountability or their work is crazy. They're going to tell you sometimes they will tell you crazy things about their life, and you just sit there with so much gratitude that you know you've got tools in your toolbox to solve their freaking problems, which is so powerful, okay? So then I'll explain the group, and I'm constantly breadcrumbing, like, does that sound like something that would help your problem? And they're like, yes, yes, yes. By the end, they're basically like, how do I sign up? Because I have never sent them a link at this point, right? So when I get to the end, I'm like, all right, girl, so here's the situation. You can sign up either as a customer member or a coach member. Either way, you're treated exactly the same way in the group. Just as a coach member, you also get added to our team community page with a bunch of other girls that I feel like you'd vibe with. And you get the opportunity to not only get a 25% discount on all products like Shakeology or pre-workout or bars, but also when you get amazing results, which girl, I know you go and get, because I'm doing this over a voice message and I talk like that, you'll also get a 25% referral off any girls that you referred to our next group. Does that sound like that would be a good fit for you? You tell me which one works best for you. So the reason I explain that is I want them to understand the benefits of coach. And I feel some people say coach, some people say customer. It doesn't matter. Either way, I probably get like half and half, honestly, when I ask that. I don't really push them in one direction or the other, except for that I feel a pull to get people as discount coaches into our team community page, whether initially or after they love Shakeology, because I know that if I wasn't in the page of my upline coach, Brigida, as a discount coach, I would have written off Beachbody altogether. I wouldn't even be here because I saw the messages that were getting posted in that team page of other coaches saying that they had changed people's lives. And I was really passionate about wanting more fulfillment. Okay. So I'm educating them. The biggest thing, I guess, in the jargon or in the language that I'm using is you're treated exactly the same in the group. And I call it a coach member or customer member. Then I give them the additional coach benefits. A lot of times women are driven by community. I know many of us are here because of community or stay here because of community. So I'm going to explain the Facebook page. And I'm also going to reiterate once again that they are going to get results either from an energy standpoint or from a look standpoint or whatever it was that was driving them to want to join this group, that they're going to have people that are going to ask them anyways. And this is the way that they can get a referral commission. So that is really helpful for me. As far as like, I don't spend a lot of time convincing people of anything, period, like in day-to-day life either, just because it's like, I'm going to share why I'm passionate about it. I'm going to give both options and whichever one they choose is perfect for them. And then I'm going to ask them when they like Shakeology, which most people do, I'm going to be sending them a personal message like, girl, I knew you would like Shakeology. You know, you can always sign up as a coach member and join our team and get a discount. So does that answer?
Yeah, totally. And it actually leads perfectly into the next question, which I feel like you kind of already answered this a little bit, so I don't want you to have to spend too much time on it. But a lot of the feedback too was just in general, how to better handle objections. And I feel like you kind of already answered that by breadcrumbing and getting to know their story along the way. But is there any kind of last tips and tricks on whether it is asking better questions, when to kind of like stand your ground and not like just let somebody's excuses be the reason they don't start, or when it's okay to actually bless and release and kind of be like, maybe I'm not the right person for you or the right coach for you, or what does that look like?
That's such a dance. I love that question. Couple things on objections. I'm actually really excited when I get objections because that person's thinking critically. And I think sometimes we get scared, but they're interested. If they're giving you an objection, they might just be scared. So put yourself in their shoes to the best of your ability that you can and seek to know more about their life, right? If they just invested in something like a gym membership or like a huge package at like Flywheel or like Orange Theory and it was like hundreds of dollars, they might just feel like they're just struggling and they don't want to fail, quote unquote, fail from their lens again. And they're really scared. So it's much easier to tell you that they can't afford it or they don't want to drink the shake or whatever it may be. So I think this is where we put our empathy hat on and we seek to understand a little bit more rather than just thinking it's an objection. I don't even like the word objection. I think it's just a question that you need to clarify and educate more. And I would prefer that someone gives me an objection. A couple of things that work for me really well with cost is I say, to be honest with you, girl, and I believe this to my absolute core, to be honest with you, girl, I'm actually kind of excited in a weird way that you're a little bit nervous about investing in yourself. And I'm always going to use that term because that's what they're doing, because that's going to give you skin in the game. And I know that I'm going to support you and you're going to see the other girls in the group and I'm going to have your back. And I get that you're scared to put this investment in for yourself. But at the same time, that's going to make you show up more because you're scared. I've had plenty of people that weren't nervous about spending $160 on a challenge pack because it was more something that they weren't worried about. They had the disposable income, but it's going to help you show up more when you're nervous. And I can tell you that I'm going to have your back, right? You show up and meet me halfway, I'm going to support you. So I think just going that extra step to acknowledge their fear, because people make decisions based off of emotions. There are very few people that can't actually afford something, as in like their lights won't stay on. There are very few people that are actually in that situation when they tell you they can't afford something. They're just scared of failure. They're scared of someone else's perception of said failure, often their own, right? So let's seek to understand and ask better questions. Pretty much any question that you guys could ask me about building this business, my response could be either ask better questions to yourself if it's a mindset thing, or to other people if it's an objection, if it's a mentoring, if it's anything, or find more people. Ask better questions, find more people. You can basically apply both of those principles to everything in Beachbody. So that's on you to kind of seek to understand more. If you're getting objections in terms of time, one thing that's a big pet peeve of mine is when someone imposes their schedule on someone else. So I say, girl, I got you. Let's break it down. Give me your schedule. Let's actually break it down. What time do you wake up in the morning? The person that goes above and beyond to really seek to understand, that person shows that they don't care about the sale. They care about the relationship. And whether that person signs up that month, the next month, or a year from now, you best believe they're going to sign up with you and they're going to know that they can trust you because you asked questions versus being like, okay, no worries. I totally understand. Maybe I'll follow up with you next month. Bye. But right. Which is, we think that we're being better people because we're not being quote unquote pushy. No, you're caring more about yourself than you are about that other person that you could serve because you're not asking them questions. And I know that's a very bold statement, but it's true. Fear is what we're deciding, right? We're forgetting about the other person that we could serve if we gave them a little bit of nudge. Sometimes people need a nudge, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I love that. I love that. And yeah, there was a question in there that just said, you know, how do you get better at that? And I just honestly think it's practice. It's at the beginning, we all word vomited. At the beginning, we all said too much, and we've just learned because you and I have been having these conversations longer than anyone else, you know, and the more conversations you have, the more you're going to get good at asking those questions and just figuring out what tones work for you and things like that.
One little tip on that too, of like, even just to tell me more about it, like giving those questions where they kind of have to like, tell me more about what's holding you back. Tell me more about like, what is this fear from starting? I want to actually know your story. I'm not here to sell you. I'm here to serve you. And the better that I know your story, the better that I can set you up for success. And Camille just dropped in the chat, if you're getting a common objection, using that as an opportunity to share that, which I think is so valuable. Because remember, the reason that I was scared to start this business was because I was scared that I wouldn't know how to start a business and that people wouldn't think that I'm credible doing this. And I was scared what other people think. So guess what I talk a lot about publicly? I just posted an Instagram story before this thing. And I said, one thing I was scared about before I started this business was that I wouldn't know how. Turns out we all learn together, which is true, right? So the objections that you're getting, weave them into how you're justifying the cost. If you're a busy mom, also follow Camille if you're a busy mom. It's Camille Marie on Instagram. She does such a good job of sharing about how she makes it work. So sorry, Jackie.
Yeah, no, I love that. And you made me think of another one that I like to ask. If someone seems like too agreeable, like they're just like, yeah, I asked them the question, what sounds scary? What are you worried about? What concerns do you have? And kind of force them to give me an objection so that I have an opportunity to dig deeper.
Did you guys, that is so good. Because if you don't have an objection and they're just like, let's go, they're not even thinking critically. So we have to get excited. Like Jackie just said, like she's like pushing for objections.
I want the objection. Yeah, I'm like, give me your concerns. Come on, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So this moves into a little bit more of like an advice question again, but what would you say is your best advice on essentially either developing leaders in your downline or how you really instill that belief in your new coaches that you're like, I'm excited for you and maybe they don't totally have it. How do you instill those beliefs in those people and then develop your leaders?
Yeah. So good question. I think I'm always going to encourage people to make sure that they're making themselves a priority first. Cause I think a lot of times we think about Beachbody, we're Beachbody coaches, but really like you are your business and Beachbody is the company that you partner with. And I can say that and someone can hear it, but when you think about what that actually means, you are your actual business. Your business will never grow beyond your mindset, ever, right? Your business will never grow beyond your ability to put yourself out there, right? So my coaches, regardless of tenure, I'm always going to push them back to how can we make your life and yourself happier? What do we need to work on first? What type of personal development do you need? How can we help you get more self-aware? What does your schedule look like? What are your current priorities right now? What's your season of life? And then I'm actually not afraid to ask the question of, hey, you said that this is your goals. This is your effort. You're not putting in the amount of work to get to these goals. So what do you want to change? Your goals or your effort? Point blank. And maybe some people aren't willing to say that yet because they haven't built up the confidence that I've built of doing this for 5.5 years. But that's really powerful because it's not my call. Like I said, I can see so much damn potential in everyone, but I don't care. Like build a business or don't build a business. Of course, I'd love for all of us to change like millions of people's lives and just be like twerking in our wheelchairs when we're buff and wrinkly. Yeah, but it's not my call what you do. And I'm never going to do the work for you. And there's been seasons of my life and certain ranks that I wanted to like log into someone else's computer and like be like, I can do this like right now, but you can't. So when you're mentoring other coaches, I think the biggest thing is to make sure that they're putting themselves on their priorities first, then being the coach who's a coach, not a cheerleader. Those things are very different. Cheerleaders like, go girl, you can do it. And there's a time and place for that. But coaches are like, what do you want? How can we go get it? And if I don't know yet because I'm new how to help you get it, what resource can I find for you? What resource can we connect you to? Have you checked Coach FAQ? If coaches ask me questions that are Coach FAQ-able, I'll say, hey girl, why don't you check Coach FAQ? I could answer it, but I don't want to have them feel like they have to come to me to get those answers. So for newer coaches, the biggest thing I would say, tips are you make sure that you are your priority always, right? That doesn't mean like work when you feel like it. For any of you guys that know me, I just don't believe in that crap. You have to work. And when you start working, you start finding joy in the process and you become addicted and all of a sudden you have a huge, massive business and you're super excited. But you still have to honor your priorities first. And I don't think this business requires you sacrificing what is your number one priority. Does it require you sacrificing TV maybe if you've got big goals and you watch like 8 hours of TV a day? Probably. Otherwise either. But I'm not going to tell you that. I'm going to say, okay, you tell me your goal is diamond. You haven't posted in 4 days. Which one do you want to change? Your goal or your effort? Right? So that's a really powerful question. The other thing that I want to say to the coaches that have been here for a while, that are catching themselves feeling burnt out, or even if you haven't been here for a while, is closing communication channels, right? So I will not, including Jackie, she can attest to this. If Jackie texts me a business question, she will be like, shoot, and she'll copy and paste it and put it on Facebook because I do not like to answer business questions over text. So I will push coaches to different platforms, right? I'm telling coaches that are DMing me a lot of business questions over Instagram to go to Facebook, right? So kind of being conscious as a leader of closing certain communication channels so that you can make yourself the priority. If I'm answering business questions on my phone every single day, then I'm not having a disconnect time, right? So you do what works best for you, but I've heard some coaches even now that have their customers texting them all the time. and you're wondering why you're burned out? Well, because your customers are asking you what color container something is at 10 p.m. And guess what? You're teaching them how to treat you. You're getting frustrated by a boundary that you haven't even communicated to them. Again, radical responsibility for yourself. Like, that's on you, baby boo, right? You tell them, hey girl, I'm so excited that you are on your journey and I want to keep you pumped up. But just like I would want you to respect your boundaries, I actually just kind of decided it's better for me to have my, girls that are in my challenge groups communicate with me on Facebook or through email, because then I give you my best attention when I'm in that zone versus I'm kind of giving you half, but I almost said ass. Oh, I just said it. Dang it. Half booty attention over here, right? So I don't know. I can't remember what the question was.
No, that was perfect. I was just like half booty. I think that's what we should start referring to. But it's so good. I mean, it's so true, you guys. Literally, there's times where Kacia and I are like texting about life, and then we're also like messaging on Facebook about business, and it's just back and forth, and it's so funny. But we don't cross those boundaries, and I think you nailed it with you can't get mad at people for crossing boundaries that you haven't communicated. I mean, that is just such a good one. Which I feel like this kind of ties in nicely to a next question that I'm so excited to hear your thoughts on. But so obviously we've all seen the Instagram quotes, the Pinterest quotes that are like, you can have perfect balance, you can have perfect harmony and all the things. So I would just love to know your thoughts on that. But then also kind of follow-up question, how do you manage and balance, competing priorities in the sense that sometimes we have our business priorities, maybe our like job priorities, family priorities, other hobbies or things that we're interested in, relationships, and we all want to give it like our number one attention. Obviously that's not possible. So how do you manage and balance your competing priorities? And just what are your thoughts on balance?
So I was it's funny that you like laugh when you're asking this, because I was on a panel at an event that I spoke at, and they're like, Kacia, how do you have perfect work-life balance? And I was like, well, I think it's total BS. And everyone was like, because I just do. I just don't think that balance, I think what's wrong with our society, without getting like too far down on a tangent, what's wrong with our society and why so many people have anxiety and are heavily medicated are because we're striving for something that doesn't actually exist, like this perfect harmonious balance of being a mom and a business owner and a perfect wife and a perfect sister. And it's like, no, you can't. Like, I'm sorry. I just don't believe in it. So what instead I do is I block off what are my priorities and what am I willing to let fall, right? I actually just did a podcast episode on this, like, what are you willing to sacrifice in order to make your dreams come true? Because you're gonna have to sacrifice something, because you can't, your life is like a pie, and every little piece that you have, when you add a new piece, like Beachbody, what happens if you don't properly squish down, for lack of a verb that I can think of that makes more sense, squish down the other pieces of your pie to accommodate this new piece with Beachbody, is life gets crazy. It squishes all together and Beachbody pops off and it goes on the back burner. And guess how you don't build a fulfilling business? When Beachbody constantly goes on the back burner and you're building your business like you're driving a stick shift car. Where you're like, in, out. You lose trust with your upline where you're like, I'm all in, I'm doing it. And then you don't do anything, and then you say it again, and then you don't do anything, and then you say it again. It's like, that just gets annoying as an upline. So how can you fit this into your life? Well, you figure out, what are my number one priorities? For me, it's myself, comes before anything else. Secondly, comes my relationship with Cena. Third comes a small amount of people that can always access me. Fourth comes my business. Fifth comes my podcast. Like, I make it in accordance to that. And then sixth comes everything else. So I'm so in line with what those things are. Right? It just kind of depends on you. So being intentional of like breaking down what are my actual priorities, and am I building my calendar to reflect my priorities? Because a lot of people love to give lip service to my relationship, my family's my priority, or I'm building my business, I'm hustling. If I were to look at your calendar, if I don't see your date night or your unplugged time with your family, I don't believe you. Because like, if you don't schedule it, it's probably not going to get done. And weeks become months, become years. And then you're wondering why your relationship's falling apart, or you never built your business and you're here 3 years later. Like, I wonder what would have happened if I started. Well, if you were intentional, you could have made it work into your life. So this was part of what you did, rather than the thing that falls on the back burner when your in-laws come to town, right? Where you can just kind of find tiny little pockets that you can make this work based off of what your goals are. So I don't believe in perfect balance. I think there's seasons in this business. There's seasons where I'm working more, working less. There's days like I barely worked today because Tina was off, and but I intentionally blocked off a couple pockets, and I was like, I'm clearing my DMs in this 20 minutes. I'm doing this, and I had it on my schedule, and then I was unavailable for a chunk of time. So if you get really intentional with your schedule, and if you want to say I'm not a schedule person, Google Enneagram 7. That's me. The squirreliest squirrel on the squirrely block, okay? Which means my brain goes like this. Like Lacey can attest to this. She talks to me all the time. My brain's always all over the place. So when you say that you don't do it, my response back to you would be like, well, do you value your goals or do you value your BS excuses? Totally your call. Your goals change or your effort changes. And when I say effort, that also means your intentionality behind building your business and showing up for your life and your priorities. And I'm not here to judge you on what you choose. Your priorities might look very different than mine, and that's totally cool. But if you're doing it your way, it's going to feel congruent, and you're going to be really excited. And like Elisa Gallios did a team call about inviting to like your business and your challenge groups are a party. People want to come to your party when you're intentionally congruent with your excitement towards your party, right? So when you're excited about your life, which that might mean that you're not watching Game of Thrones. I literally don't even know what that show is. Sorry for all the people that are going to kill me. But some people literally just glared at me like I told them I did not like their like toe or something. Point is, honor your priorities, right? For me, my business or my unplugged time matters to me more than Game of Thrones does. If that was my favorite show ever, then maybe that would matter to me more than something else. You do you, right?
Whew! Mic drop again. I just love it. I just like unmute myself and just start screaming.
I'm really saucy.
I love it.
Wait, Jackie, I feel like I should disclaimer for the coaches that have literally never met me before. That was very bold, and that's exactly how I am. So
that's okay. If they're going to be here a while, they better just get used to it quick.
True.
So I'm going to combine a couple questions so that we have a couple seconds at the end for just an epic, like, last piece of advice question. But to kind of take those moments, we see this happen a lot with coaches where they're in it, they're on fire, they're fired up, but then they do get hit with something. It's a loss or a tragedy or a busy project at work or something. And they're like, I want my business to be a priority, but I cannot figure it out. Kind of part one question of that is, what do you do in those moments? What do you do when you want it to be a priority, but you're not able to figure out how to make it a priority? Or if you're feeling really meh, or you're struggling to get motivated, you are feeling like you're failing, you missed a goal, like what are some things that you do to keep your business moving forward so that once you figure it out, you haven't totally done the stick shift thing?
Yep. Good question. So I think of people that everybody has different seasons and transitions, whether that's something that's like moving across the country or that's something devastating, like a loss in your family or something like that. I think that's where you lean into this community more than ever. Communicate with the coaches that are close to you, with your upline coach, like lean in and understand that we can support you and help you make a game plan that feels good to you. But what's hard is if you completely run away, right? I'll use Maggie Hoffman because I know she won't mind me saying this. When Maggie lost her mom, when she had a newborn baby, I had a conversation with Maggie where I was like, please don't let that old perfectionist self think that you can manage your business at the rate that you did before. Please give yourself permission to have a different season right now. And for her, that meant I'm still going to show up in my groups to the best of my ability because I want to serve these people, and I'm going to show up on social media, but I'm not going to actively be worried about Success Club. I'm going to actively show up and maintain that frontward facing like social media standpoint. And that was her decision that she made. But what feels really good about this and how it doesn't feel like you're throwing in the towel or driving your business like a stick shift car is when you're intentionally making the decision of how you want to show up and communicating that decision to someone that can help hold you accountable. So whether that's in Slay Squad or a business building group or with your upline coach or with another coach on this team, just keeping us in the loop because we are also a family, whether you've been here for a day or you've been here for 5.5 years, like you're part of this family, whether I know you personally or not, I want to serve you too. So if you tell us what's going on, you don't have to give all the nitty-gritty details, but if you tell us that you're in a season and you ask for help, which sometimes as women, that can be tough for some people to do, but that's why you're here, because it's not just about you anymore. It's about the people that you can serve. So now you get to have a responsibility for how can I serve myself first? that might mean that you have to take a break from this, but you won't throw in the towel if you intentionally decide, I'm going to take a break and this is what it's going to look like for me. And I think it's a lot of times if we continue to go, and we don't give ourselves permission during a crazy season in life to have a different season of your business, then we can burn out and throw in the towel completely. And not only does that not serve you and your business, but it also doesn't serve the people that you haven't even yet met that are counting on you to do the thing that you feel called to do, which is be here and serve them, right? So we've got to be intentional about it. And I think the best thing is it's so individual based off of what you're going through. But if you don't communicate it, we can't help you solve it. And we want to help serve you, right?
Whew. Again, so good. Also good.
I didn't really know I was going to answer that until it started.
No, I think that's perfect. So we have about 6 minutes left, obviously, and I know you love to be respectful of everyone's time. So I wanted to just kind of open up the floor. Just if you wanted to just give us a little Empower Her podcast preach. If you're not subscribed to the podcast, go subscribe. 5-star review. Great episode coming out tomorrow. Or if you're listening to the recording, just go subscribe. But open platform. If you were to leave this group of people with, kind of your last piece of advice, something you really want them to take home and just hear and embrace, what is your last thing that you would like to kind of end this call with?
Jackie's the hype woman of the podcast. You're so funny. I love you. So I think what I would tell you to do is just understand that you don't know why you're here, right? Because it's going to change for sure over time. And you're going to have different things that you evolve as a person from showing up in this business. You're going to meet people that will influence your life. You're going to serve people through this business that will influence your life. You might invite someone who this saves their life, right? So we don't know why we're here. And as we show up in this business, whether we are inspiring people to join our business or we're inspiring people to build their dream life or to step outside of their comfort zone because you're doing it, what you're doing here, it really, really matters. And I hope that you understand that when you're posting on social media, it can feel like you're doing things to do it, right? Like, I'm just going to post because my upline coach told me to post or Kacia told me to post or whatever. No, when you show up, you're inspiring hope in someone else and they probably won't quote unquote like or comment on your Instagram post. And you've got to get over that, okay? You've got to understand that the person that you're going to become in pursuit of getting towards the goals that you don't even know will happen is why you're actually here. The people that you're going to impact by showing up and getting really dang good at being you, that's what matters, guys. So take a macro view of what this can do in a huge ripple effect. I don't care if you don't want to be a full-time coach. Plenty of people don't want to be full-time coaches. All of my uplines have built this business full-time and retired their husbands. Not my goal, never wants to be my goal, right? But my goal was, first, I'm going to add fulfillment to my life and I'm going to get really damn good at being me. And that evolved into, I added a lot of fulfillment to a lot of other people's life. And I got really good at being me, so much so that I'm uncomfortable not being me, right? So you don't know who this is going to serve. So please, I'm urging you, yes, we talk about social media. Yes, we talk about inviting. Yes, we'll give you resources out the wazoo. But you showing up and being the best version of you is going to impact more people than you can imagine. And I will tell you, the people that you don't know are watching you and they're counting on you to show up. So if you can't show up for yourself, show up for the person that you don't even know yet because she needs you, right? So when you can kind of take this altruistic approach to this being not just about you anymore, the stuff that you are worried about, like Aunt Nancy at the dinner table, you don't care what Aunt Nancy thinks about you not eating mashed potatoes. You don't care what your random third grade friend thinks about you being a beach body coach because you're like, hey girl, hey Aunt Nancy, you don't get it. Hey third grade friend, I don't want your life, so I'm going to do me, right? So screw it. Sorry for the Nancys. I should have used Sally Sue.
Oh my God, Sally Sue 389 or something. That was so good. There was a couple questions that came in. I mean, there was what do you tell the girl that got stuck, or what do you do for challenge groups that are running a little bit flat? I don't know if you want to address those in the last couple minutes or if we want to touch on those later.
The stuck one, the quickest answer is action, right? Give yourself a timer moving backwards to do said thing. And you won't get better until you do it, right? The best way you can learn is by doing it. If you need accountability to do it, it's your responsibility to ask for what you need. You're an entrepreneur, you're a CEO. we're all the same. We all have the same business. We just have different tenure and different backgrounds and different skill sets. And everybody here can help each other, but you've got to ask for what you need. So if you need accountability to take action, ask for it or post in these groups. Like, we'll hold you to it, but we don't know if you don't tell us.
Boom. I think that's the perfect way to close it out. I'm so excited. If you guys want to blow up the chat, that was amazing. I feel like there were so many people throughout every one of your answers that were just like, this is fire. I'm taking so many notes. I'm so excited. So, and if there are more questions, you guys definitely let us know. I think we could totally do this again. But Kacia, that was awesome. Just
Jackie, let's give it up for Jackie. Interviewer, watch out, Katie Gurrick.
Yeah. Watch out, Empower Her Podcast. No.
What did you say?
I was saying, watch out, Empower Her Podcast. Got a new interviewer on the blog. What?
Yeah, girl, bring it. I love you guys. Thank you so much for being on
time.
and for your questions. Love you guys. Yeah.